listening to ASOTU CON Sessions by Effectv, live from ASOTU CON 2023. Okay, I'm here with Joel Bassam, president of Eastern's Automotive. Thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time today.
Of course, happy to be here.
So, all right, we have applause already from the background. Thank you. That's our one fan. We have two fans now.
That's three. Oh, four. There we go. We're
Wow.
there. Yeah.
I got to say, that's the best response we've gotten from the podcast stage.
That was the best $5 I've ever spent.
So we don't know each other very well. We kind of like have a lot of similar circles, and then there's LinkedIn. But give me a little background on how you got into the car business.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've got my PhD just like Rick. My father got into this business in 1988. I'm lucky enough to have applied for the job and got it. So
when you say PhD just like Rick, what do you mean?
Papa had a dealership. So I applied. Got out of school. Yeah, exactly. I applied for the job, got it, and I've been working there since I was 12. So really enjoy it and love the car business. Once it's in your blood, you can't get it out.
I know. It really is one of my favorite things about the industry is the family dynamic. I don't think there's any industry that's more family oriented. Yeah. People often forget the number one retail industry in the country is actually a family business.
That's totally true. And this industry also has that unique thing where you go to conferences like this and you might see the same people, but they're at a different company because once they're in this orbit, it's the gravity just keeps you around.
And I love boomerangs, right? They leave, they think the grass is greener, and they're like, hey, I went into like pharmaceuticals, or I went into like PCG, and like I went into consumers packaged goods. I said PCG, CPG. Yeah. And they come back and like they're no fun over there. Yeah. Like that was crap. Like come back to automotive. This is where I belong. So tell us a little bit about your group. Yep. And so we can kind of get a level set for the conversation.
Yeah, Easterns is a family-owned and operated business. So we've been in the market since 1988. It's 35 years. We're actually in this market. We're 20 minutes from 3 of my stores right now.
And right now, if you don't know, right now we're sitting in Baltimore, or just south of Baltimore.
That's correct. Yeah, and we have 8 retail locations. We're a completely independent group. And a quick version of our group and how it works is we're a full hub and spoke model. So everything's run out of a central reconditioning and corporate facility, makes all the decisions for all of our stores. And our stores have one focus. It's just selling cars. And that's it. That's our only source of revenue.
No service?
No service.
Wow.
Our purpose is any car, any way for everyone. And everyone in the company, doesn't matter what you do, you sell cars for a living.
So you do your own service reconditioning though,
correct,
right?
Yeah.
Just no retail service.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what happens to the customers that, buy a car? Where do you send them for service?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we have phenomenal vehicle service contract penetration. And we say if you bought a BMW, try a BMW dealership first and work your way outwards. We have relationships with individual groups around each store. But that space.
But you obviously have internal, so that if there's an issue, like you have to sell, you can take care of those quick and internally.
Oh, 100%. And then customer care stuff is different for sure. We handle all of those. But as far as pay work, we don't want to. We kind of lovingly say when a car leaves our reconditioning center, we hope to never see it again. That means we did our job right.
Wow, I love this so much. I love learning about like very unique groups like yours who are really putting customer experience first and are operating without the obligations of an OEM. Sure. So you can really kind of explore the space. Yeah. And you can kind of make decisions that in your estimation are like, hey, these are the best for the customer experience, which by the way, I think is a great way for even franchise dealers to learn by your example and figure out how it fits into their model. So like you're kind of like, there ain't no strings on you,
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that gets frustrating is the only word that comes to mind with other dealership groups where they come and they say, well, we can't do that because of this, or we can't do that because of this. Sure. And, the concepts around that, being an independent, we only make decisions that add profit to the bottom line. And so whether it's marketing, whether it's tech stack decisions, whether it's digital retailing decisions, centralized BDCs, sales centers, whatever you want to call it, how we pay our salespeople, it doesn't matter. It's about what makes the best fit for our company culture and what makes the best fit for our customers. And so those are the only decisions that we make. It's all based on that.
So give me an idea of geography. You explained it, but like how far are the two furthest, satellite locations?
Sure. Yeah. We operate in the DC and Baltimore DMAs with, some future plans that we'll be announcing relatively soon in other markets. But yeah, it's the farthest one is 67 miles, which doesn't sound like 67.
Okay.
Which doesn't sound like a lot.
Oh, in this area.
But in this area, that's
gosh.
It might as well be.
That's like 300 miles in like in the middle of the country,
Exactly,
right? How
yeah.
long does it take you to get 10 miles sometimes?
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about timing. If it's, 6-7 miles in the middle of the day is very different than 4 o'clock.
Oh my goodness, yes.
But that actually is a unique value proposition for our company as well, because again, this is all a benefit of being independent. One of our value propositions to our customers is every car is available to every customer. It's at their convenience. And we structure that not only in the customer experience when they're physically in the store, but on our website and in our digital retailing. It's actually one of the things that limits our ability to use some of the off-the-shelf digital retailing tools that exist in the space. All of them are defaulted to contract in the entity in which the car is parked. And we actually have to consistently push against that to say, hey, Paul's applying for a loan on this Hyundai Sonata. It doesn't matter that his convenient location is Baltimore right now, because that's the closest store to us right now. I want to contract in that entity because that's where he wants to pick up. End of story.
Because the car likely isn't there, right? You centralize your inventory, so when I shop your site, I get every location.
Correct.
And then it'll probably tell me where the car is located.
Yep.
But like you're saying, like if I'm in one spot and the car's in another spot, but I want the car that's in another spot, the tools are default not conducive to that.
Correct. Yeah. And so we've actually kind of, square peg round hole a lot of those products into making it work for us. But it works for, it's again, at the end of the day, it benefits the consumer. First thing the customers see when they get to the lot and they meet a salesperson, or what we call a customer advisor, because they're non-commissioned, they make hourly rates. I'm so-and-so. That's probably the first thing. Second thing is, don't limit your options by what's in the store. What's parked here? We have another 1,000 cars to choose from. I can have any of them here within 20 minutes. And so you don't like the red one, we'll get a blue one here to, within a few minutes. And that's pushed upstream to our, what we call BDC, which is internal marketing, or what we call sales center, which is internal marketing for BDC. Same thing. Customers start shopping online. We ask the customer where they want to pick up the car, or if they want it delivered. That's the first question, because that designates where we're going to actually start selling the car to and through.
Because if they're going to pick it up, then, or even delivered, you try to get the car sold from the closest location to their physical address.
Correct. Yeah, that'll be most convenient for the customer, and that's what matters the most. So right now we're selling about 30% of our cars before a customer physically arrives in the store, and we use Roadster to do that.
When you say selling, how far through the transaction are you getting?
Contracted.
Done.
Yeah, approval done, signed contract, unified, done.
And they show up and
30-minute transactions, NPS scores over 80.
There you go.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
So, I was listening to, what was it? I was listening to Alan Haig, and he was talking about the independent dealer and the entrepreneurial nature that it takes to make an independent work, because yes, you don't have the restrictions of the OEM,
right?
But you also don't have a lot of the advantages of being with an OEM, mainly captive financing, right? Floor plan, all the things that the OEM basically subsidizes, either through reputation, stability, or as an internal product. You don't have those things. Right. So on the one side, you get the advantage of doing what you want, but the disadvantage of not having anybody to help.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and that story is one that actually leads a lot of independent groups when they're in their growth process to add a franchise point to get over that hurdle.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you're an independent out there and you're listening, there's a check box on a form that says whether you're independent or not. And a lot of those banks and financing partners,
once you
don't
check
go
that
past
box,
go. Yeah,
right?
Yeah, do not collect $200. Okay. It's over.
So have you ever considered that model?
Well, we've been lucky enough,
like getting an OEM.
Yeah, we've had franchises in the past.
Okay.
But either way, we've been around and established, and a lot of this is really because of the relationship my father's built over the year and the trust, and I attribute that to
track record for the banks to be like,
correct.
There it is.
Yeah, I mean, internally with leadership, it's when we're making decisions, all about long-term thinking. It's not about short-term profit. It's about where we're going to be in 5 years and the decisions made on that. And that means, it maybe sounds a little silly, but when our buyers are buying cars, they're considering the performance of the loan portfolio for where that customer is going to actually finance that car. I mean, that's how far down the funnel we're thinking. We're thinking about loss ratios for vehicle service contracts, and all that's happening before we buy the car, not after.
Right.
Because we want to be a profitable business for all of our partners and our stakeholders, and that has allowed us to really open those doors. So we're the exception for a lot of banks. We're exceptions for a lot of floor plan companies, and we're proud of that. It is somewhat of a risk, especially in an uncertain financial space that we find ourselves in today's economy, but it's one that we think we can continue to push through. Now, that being said, if the opportunities arise, we buy property and we buy dealerships the same way we buy cars. It's opportunity based.
Right.
And there's no doubt that in this market, there's a lot of opportunity. We've got a lot of exciting things coming down the pipe. By the time this is released, we should have Another 2 points open.
Hey.
One of which should be a franchise, which I can't really talk about yet. But
Okay.
And that's just an opportunity-based thing.
I love it.
It's not to get over those hurdles. It's because it's diversification of our company. And it's funny, the conversation that you're talking about with Alan is actually one that him and I have had before at the table, which was the blue sky on an independent dealership is the dealer principal.
Right. That's it.
There's no established multiple because
there's a lot across the street. I can buy my own used cars and hire your staff.
Yep, exactly. Well, that's the thought, but
that's
build the right company, that doesn't happen.
That's true, but I'm just saying, like, when you look at potential acquisitions, right? Like, that's kind of what they think. Unless you bring, like, the dealer principal or some significant developments in process, right? Things you've figured out, like a hub and spoke used car model. Let me ask you this one. This will be the last question. There's so much conversation around efficient used car departments. It's just one of the things that any dealer can control. So pricing, major consideration right now. Can you let us know how you approach, like, the mentality by which you approach acquisition and pricing?
Yeah, I mean, it's all based on volume, scale, and speed. So acquisition for vehicles, the consideration is that it's let's say things are somewhat normal, which hasn't been the case for a couple of years, but when we buy a car,
just not normal.
The day the gavel stops, the timer starts. The car's depreciating. We're paying interest on that car. And so time to market is more important than cost to market in our mind. And because we're focused on turn and efficiency when it comes to that. So we've built all of our processes around that central concept, which is why we've, really consolidated all those efforts into a single point. It is generally less expensive when you get really good at it, but that was never our that's not what we set out to achieve. It was all about how can I get my days in recon to single digits? And then once we got into single digits, which we achieve pretty easily now, it's how do we get it below 5 days, 6 days? What are we averaging? Can I get it to 4 days? Is that even possible?
Right.
And we were achieving that for a long time. I mean, you had cars that the first time we sold a car and its days in inventory was single digits. In the used space, it was like, man, this is all we got to do. The gross of the deal didn't matter.
Let's get good at this one thing. And everything else will fall in line.
Right. And honestly, that's a core concept. And this is a funny story that you'll definitely appreciate is, my father came to the United States. He worked in a pizza chain. He ended up he got moved up to the DC area to work for a chain called Chi-Chi's. And if you're from this area, you might know what it is.
I remember.
Yeah. And
Exactly. I still remember the jingle.
And then he ended up he moved on to a Domino's and he worked there. He's like, man, they've got it figured out. He's like, I can make stromboli, I can make breadsticks, I can do all this stuff. He's like, no, we just make pizza. Let's focus on this one thing. And they thought of everything. They were dicing the cheese different so that it wouldn't clump. They had a spinner. They'd measured the sauce. And it was all because they had 30 minutes or less. That was their whole thing.
Has to be fast.
And that's how we think of the car business. It's like, yes, we can have a franchise model. Yes, we can do customer service, but it will take away focus of just being the most efficient used car seller we possibly can be. And so everything's built around that.
Oh my gosh, we have to have another conversation because there's so much to unpack. Joel, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us on ASOTU CON Sessions by Effectv.
Yeah, happy to be here.